The cameras flashed. The crowd, like, completely froze.
Oh, the energy in that room was just electric.
Right. Picture the absolute blinding energy inside the Crypto.com arena in Los Angeles. It is February 2026, the 68th Grammy Awards, and honestly, Hollywood has a brand new obsession.
They really did.
Up on that stage is country superstar Jelly Roll. He is looking out into this sea of the biggest names in the music industry, tears just streaming down his face, and he's delivering this incredibly raw, triumphant speech.
Yeah, it was an unforgettable television moment.
He thanks Jesus, and then he looks directly at his wife of nearly a decade, Bunnie XO, and he tells the world that without her, he would literally be dead or in jail.
Which is such a massive statement to make in front of millions of people.
Exactly. To the millions watching, this is the ultimate impenetrable success story. Two people who battled homelessness, severe addiction, and, their absolute darkest demons, and somehow they climbed to the peak of the mountain holding hands.
It really felt like the definitive victory lap for them. I mean, when a couple presents that level of vulnerability and devotion on such a massive platform, the public just naturally assumes the foundation is solid rock.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. You see a moment like that and you assume, well, they've survived the worst, so nothing could possibly break them now.
Right, but that is exactly what makes the reality so shocking.
Yeah, because it is so hard to reconcile that glittering Grammys moment with the reality of a courtroom. We are looking at a jarring smash cut to reality here, because barely 4 months later, in June 2026, paparazzi are snapping photos of moving trucks pulling up to their sprawling Tennessee mansion.
That happened so fast.
It did. Explosive divorce papers are suddenly public, and the internet is just completely melting down.
The whiplash was real.
It really was. So welcome to Starscope Report. Join Jordan and Jamie as we uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals. From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame. I'm Jordan.
And I'm Jamie.
And today, we are doing a deep dive into a headline that has taken over everything. The headline is, She Knew. Bunnie XO exposed Jelly Roll's affair.
Yeah, that's the narrative we're unpacking today.
We're taking a massive stack of breaking celebrity news sources to untangle the sudden, shocking divorce of Jason DeFord, obviously known to the world as Jelly Roll, and his wife Elisa DeFord, or Bunnie XO.
We're going to look at the timeline of the final weeks because honestly, the dates on the legal filings tell a completely different story than their Instagram feeds.
Oh, entirely different.
Yeah, and we'll also be looking at the resurfaced decade-old betrayal that came back to haunt them, the cryptic social media clues, and the fascinating lifestyle and ideological clashes that finally broke them apart.
So if you have ever wondered what really happens behind the carefully curated digital facades of celebrity couples, this is your ultimate case study. Because this isn't just gossip. It is the linchpin of a narrative about how public reinvention can just shatter private vows. But wait till you hear what came next, because let's jump straight into the timeline. The dates here are, well, they're incredibly disjointed.
They really don't make sense on the surface.
No, they don't. According to Variety and TMZ, who obtained the Williamson County, Tennessee court records, Jelly Roll officially filed for divorce on May 18th, 2026.
Right.
And he cited irreconcilable differences. But the official separation date listed in those exact same legal documents is May 9.
And those 9 days between the separation and the filing, I mean, that is a masterclass in modern public relations.
How so?
Well, you have a legal document, signed and dated, acknowledging the death of a 10-year marriage on a Friday, May 9th.
Right. But I'm stuck on this May 9th versus May 10th discrepancy.
Right.
Because on Saturday, May 10th, which just happened to be a Mother's Day, Bunnie posts this glowing, super happy video featuring Jelly Roll and his daughter Bailey at Bailey's senior prom.
Yeah, the optics of that are wild.
They are. Her caption says something about never believing in happily ever after until them. I mean, if you've already signed papers acknowledging the death of your marriage, how do you genuinely post a smiling family photo the very next day?
It's totally bizarre to look at.
Is that just pure cynical PR, or is something else happening behind the scenes there?
It is a highly coordinated buffer period.
Yeah.
In high-profile marriages, the digital footprint often runs on a delay,
Oh, like with a schedule posts in advance.
Exactly. Or it's intensely managed by a crisis team once the separation becomes legal. The whole strategy is to maintain the brand narrative while the legal team positions their chess pieces.
That makes sense.
You definitely don't want the public scrutinizing your body language at a senior prom while your attorneys are quietly filing paperwork in another county.
Wow. Yeah. Which brings us to the legal maneuvering itself. Because the attorney Jelly Roll hired, well, it tells us this wasn't just some chaotic weekend argument that spiraled out of control.
Not at all.
No, he hired Rose Palermo. And if you follow Nashville legal circles, that name honestly sends a shiver down your spine.
Oh, she is legendary.
She represented Kelsey Ballerini in her divorce. She worked with Winona Judd. I mean, she is renowned as an absolute shark. You just don't call someone with that kind of terrifying efficiency unless you've been planning this for weeks, if not months.
Yeah, hiring a powerhouse litigator like Palermo is a definitive statement of intent. It indicates deep preparation and a desire for absolute asset protection.
Right.
And we actually see that preparation reflected in the specific language of the filing. The document is listed as divorce-NO children.
Which to a casual observer sounds really strange given how public they have been about their blended family.
It does, but when you look at the calendar, it makes perfect sense.
Because Jelly Roll's daughter, Bailey, who calls Bunnie Mom, she actually turned 18 on May 22nd.
Right, which is just 4 days after the May 18th filing. So by the time a judge even looks at the preliminary paperwork, Bailey is legally an adult. There is absolutely no custody battle to wage.
Oh, wow, the timing is just impeccable.
It really is. And additionally, there is Noah, Jelly Roll's 9-year-old son from a previous relationship. But Jelly Roll splits custody with Noah's mother, so Bunnie has no legal custody rights there either.
So that makes the, quote, NO children designation a clean legal reality. But, I mean, there's a deeply tragic layer to that checkbox.
There really is.
For the last several months, they had been incredibly open about their journey with IVF and surrogacy. Bunnie detailed in her book that after enduring the trauma of ectopic pregnancies and miscarriages, they had finally found a surrogate.
Yeah, they had gone through multiple egg retrievals and were actively preparing for twins.
And if you're loving these Hollywood twists and want to hear more deep dives like this, make sure you're subscribed. We've got even crazier stories ahead, and you really don't want to miss them.
Definitely hit that subscribe button. But going back to the IVF, we really have to pause and consider the biological and emotional toll of that process.
Absolutely.
Because IVF isn't just a simple medical procedure. It is a profound physiological and emotional hijacking.
Yeah, the hormones alone are intense.
Right. You're dealing with intense hormone injections, the soaring hopes of retrieval, and the agonizing wait for viability. Bunnie wrote that they had finally reached a point of financial and emotional stability where they felt safe growing their family.
So to go from the profound vulnerability of planning for surrogate twins in February to checking a cold, bureaucratic NO children box in May, it reveals an incredibly rapid collapse.
It's heartbreaking.
It means no legal children were expected from the marriage. It's less like a sports car driving off a cliff, and honestly more like a sinkhole.
A sinkhole is a great way to describe it.
Yeah, the surface looks perfectly fine, the grass is green, the public appearances are triumphant, but underneath, the foundation has been eroding for months until the ground just gives way all at once.
That analogy is perfect because to understand what eroded the foundation, we have to look at what they recently dragged back into the spotlight.
Which goes back to our main headline today.
Exactly. The central narrative dominating the timeline right now is essentially, she knew. Bunnie XO exposed Jelly Roll's affair.
And later in the episode, we'll talk about the shocking twist nobody saw coming regarding their careers. But first, let's wind the clock back to understand this affair dynamic.
Yeah, we have to go back to 2015.
Right. They met in 2015 in Las Vegas. And the contrast to their current lives is just staggering. Jelly Roll was literally living out of a brown van he called Bertha, bouncing from couch to couch.
It's such a wild origin story.
It really is. Bunnie has admitted she wasn't looking for love, and she definitely didn't see herself with someone like him. But they eloped in 2016, just a month after dating.
Talk about moving fast.
Yeah, and then 2 years into that marriage, around 2018, Jelly Roll had a nearly year-long affair.
And when Bunnie discovered that betrayal, she actually left him and moved back to Vegas.
Yeah, she actually left.
Yeah, she was gone. But eventually, he pursued her, they went to therapy, and she made the very difficult decision to take him back. She's noted in past interviews that while she normally doesn't believe in third chances, she gave him a second chance because she views herself as a product of second chances. They supposedly did all the intensive work to heal. They even renewed their vows in 2023 at a Las Vegas chapel.
See, I hear the narrative of them doing the work, but I almost wonder if their recent career moves actually undid all of it.
I think you're spot on there.
Because they had supposedly resolved this affair years ago in private. But suddenly, over the last 6 months, it became premium content, for their brands.
Exactly.
Jelly Roll went on the Human School podcast in October 2025 and basically confessed to the infidelity, calling it one of the worst moments of his adulthood.
Which is a huge public admission.
Right, and then Bunnie released her tell-all memoir, Stripped Down, Unfiltered, and Unapologetic, in February 2026. She detailed the absolute devastation of that affair in the book. Revealing it pushed her to severe mental health struggles.
And this is where we really see the psychological cost of the modern influencer economy.
And what do you mean by that?
Well, vulnerability is a highly lucrative currency right now. It sells books, it builds fiercely loyal audiences, and it makes multimillionaire celebrities feel relatable to the average person.
But wait, wasn't radical honesty their whole brand?
Right.
They built their empire on being the gritty, unfiltered couple.
They did, yeah.
So I'm trying to understand why sharing this specific story would break them now when they've shared so much other trauma in the past.
Because there is a massive difference between acknowledging a past struggle and actively resurrecting it for commercial consumption.
Oh, I see.
Think about it. When you secure a multi-city book tour based on the worst year of your marriage, you aren't just telling the story once. You have to outline the betrayal. You draft the chapters.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
You sit in a recording booth for 40 hours reading the audiobook aloud. Then you do months of press tours, sitting across from interviewers who ask you to describe exactly how much it hurt over and over again.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. You are essentially forcing your own nervous system and your partners to constantly inhabit the most painful era of your lives.
You're not just looking at the scar. You're actively picking the scab every single day for the sake of an algorithm.
Precisely. You're picking the scab. Bunnie wrote in her book that back in 2018, their castle in the sand had to crumble so they could rebuild on solid ground.
And they genuinely believed they had.
Yeah, they thought they did. But when you subject that rebuilt foundation to a relentless media tour, constantly analyzing the affair from every possible angle in front of millions of people, the dormant resentment and shame often come rushing back.
That makes total sense.
The relationship may have survived the affair itself, but it just couldn't survive the monetization of the affair.
Wow. And if that media tour weakened the ground, well, the recent ideological clashes were the earthquake that swallowed the house entirely.
Well, the ideological clashes were huge.
Because the digital breadcrumbs Bunnie was leaving in the final weeks, they were pointing to a very different kind of conflict than just an old affair.
And the social media activity in the lead up to a high-profile divorce is rarely accidental.
Oh, she was sounding the alarm. Shortly before the divorce news broke, Bunnie posted a video of herself lip-syncing to Nickelback's breakup anthem, How You Remind Me.
Okay, that is specific.
Yeah, with the caption, she's getting her sparkle back. Now, I think we can all agree that posting Nickelback lyrics is the universal, undeniable red flag that your life has veered completely off the rails.
It really is the ultimate warning sign.
But she went further than that.
The TikTok reposts.
Yes, the TikToks. She started heavily reposting these highly specific, cryptic videos. One was about waiting for someone to change and how it only keeps you stuck.
That's just telling.
Another was about recognizing manipulation, dealing with emotional immaturity, and identifying someone who is spiritually unaware, narcissistic, and, quote, low-key evil.
Yeah, low-key evil.
She shared another video that just said, God gonna get back for you.
Notice the specific vocabulary she is amplifying there. Spiritually unaware, narcissistic, manipulation.
Yeah, those are heavy words.
They are. These aren't just generic sad quotes about growing apart. They point to a fundamental clash in values, behavior, and power dynamics.
Right.
And this aligns perfectly with the insider reports detailing why the environment inside their home became so toxic in its final months.
Because the sources are claiming there was a massive, unresolvable clash over religion, public image, and lifestyle.
Exactly.
This wasn't just about an old affair anymore. This was about who they were becoming in the present day and the huge demands of their respective careers.
To really understand this, we have to look at the mechanics of the industries they were operating in. Both of their trajectories make complete sense for their individual brands, but they were deeply incompatible together.
Okay, break that down for us.
Well, Jelly Roll has been leaning heavily into his Christian faith recently. We obviously saw the Grammy speech.
Why?
But beyond that, he's been actively exploring crossover opportunities within the Christian contemporary music industry.
And meanwhile, Bunnie is the host of the Dumb Blonde podcast. Her entire brand is built on being explicit, sex-positive, unapologetic, and raw.
Which is basically the opposite of the Christian music industry.
Exactly. She is a former sex worker who retired from that industry, but maintained a very bold, unvarnished public persona that her fans absolutely love.
So the friction here is entirely structural. The Christian contemporary music market is incredibly lucrative, but the barrier to entry is ideological uniformity.
What does that mean for an artist?
It means it functions almost entirely on moral alignment. It's not just about the music you release, it's about being deemed, quote, safe for a specific conservative demographic.
Oh, I see.
They love a redemption arc, you know. A former addict finding faith is a great story, but your current household, including your spouse, has to reflect those values.
So it wasn't just Jelly Roll having a personal spiritual awakening. From a business perspective, Bunnie's explicit brand actively threatened his ability to fully cross over into that market.
That's what the reports are suggesting.
I guess my question is, why couldn't they just silo their careers? Like, he sings his hymns, she records her podcast, and they just meet in the middle at home.
Because in that specific market, you are selling a lifestyle, not just an album. There is a concept in conservative Christian circles of being unequally yoked.
Unequally yoked.
Yeah, it's the idea that spouses must be spiritually and morally aligned. Rumors strongly suggest that as Jelly Roll's star rose in these faith-based circles, the pressure really mounted.
Pressure on him to change her.
Exactly. He allegedly wanted Bunnie to sanitize her image and tone down the explicit content to better fit his new devout trajectory.
And she completely refused. And honestly, why should she?
Right.
She liked her life, she built a fiercely loyal fan base on her own terms, and she didn't want to dismantle the empire she built just to play the role of a sanitized music industry wife.
And that creates an impossible impasse. Some sources in Nashville even suggested there was skepticism about whether Jelly Roll's transformation was purely spiritual, or if he just recognized the massive financial potential of tapping into the Christian demographic.
Oh, that's interesting.
Regardless of his motivations, it demanded a behavioral change that Bunnie was fundamentally unwilling to make.
It's just a devastating paradox. They started out surviving the exact same hustle, speaking the exact same language in these gritty dive bars.
They were in the trenches together.
Yeah, but suddenly one wants to play acoustic sets in a megachurch, and the other wants to keep throwing unapologetic underground parties. They just aren't playing the same tune anymore.
They really aren't.
It makes me wonder if surviving the struggle sometimes makes you completely blind to the fact that you aren't compatible in success.
That hits on a core psychological concept known as trauma bonding.
Oh, I've heard that term.
Yeah, when two people meet at rock bottom, you know, living in a van, battling substance abuse, surviving infidelity, their entire connection is forged in crisis. They are essentially clinging to each other in a storm, focused entirely on survival.
And Jelly Roll has said it repeatedly. She loved him at his absolute lowest. She was his anchor.
Yes. But what happens when the storm finally breaks? When the massive success arrives, the millions of dollars hit the bank account, the Grammy nominations roll in, and you finally have the financial stability to plan for IVF.
The survival mode turns off.
Exactly. The chaos that kept you glued together is gone. For the first time in a decade, both individuals have the safety, the resources, and the space to actually figure out who they are outside of a crisis.
And it turns out the people they became wanted completely different lives. The person you desperately needed to survive the dive bar isn't necessarily the person who fits into your new life, whether that's the megachurch or the Hollywood red carpet.
Exactly. Success acts as a massive magnifying glass. It removes the shared struggle that masked their differences, revealing stark incompatibilities in their core values, their religious beliefs, and just how they fundamentally want to move through the world.
And you add to that the immense physical and mental pressure they were both under. We saw reports that Jelly Roll had recently struggled heavily with his weight loss journey.
Yeah, that was a big stressor.
He dropped from over 500 pounds down to 265 for a magazine cover. But then he admitted he got off the rails during the holidays and broke his collarbone.
It's a lot all at once.
You combine the physical strain, the psychological toll of a memoir book tour, constantly picking at old betrayals, and an unresolvable ideological clash over their brands. I mean, it's a powder keg.
And when a powder keg detonates, you get moving trucks in June and shark divorce lawyers drafting paperwork while the Instagram feed still shows a happy family.
It is an incredibly tragic arc. You have a couple that started with a lightning-fast Las Vegas courthouse wedding in 2016. They survived homelessness.
They really went through it all.
They survived the devastating affair that Bunnie eventually exposed to the world. They renewed their vows. They reached the absolute pinnacle of the music industry and were weeks away from welcoming surrogate twins.
Only to have the foundation give out completely. From a legally documented separation on May 9th through a heavily coordinated PR weekend, straight into the arrival of moving trucks at their Tennessee home.
So you are now armed with the full context behind the breaking headlines. It wasn't just a sudden weekend blowout.
No, it was years in the making.
It was a decade of compounded trauma, a vulnerability-driven media tour that reinfected healed wounds, and a fundamental clash of identities in the blinding light of unimaginable success.
And it leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about regarding the nature of forgiveness and personal evolution.
What's that?
Well, we constantly hear that people deserve second chances, exactly as Bunnie generously gave Jelly Roll all those years ago. But do those second chances have an expiration date?
Oh, wow.
When the people who made the original promises evolve into entirely different versions of themselves, can you really hold someone to a vow they made when they were a completely different person living a completely different life?
That is a heavy, illuminating thought to sit with. If you've spent 10 years rebuilding your castle from the sand, but you've evolved into a different king and queen, maybe you just don't fit in the castle anymore.
Exactly.
And if you're loving these deep dives, stay tuned and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next. You've been listening to Starscope Report, where Jordan and Jamie uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture.
Thanks for tuning in.
Keep questioning the flawless narratives you see on your feeds. Remember those flashbulbs at the Grammys? Sometimes the brightest lights cast the darkest shadows, and what looks like a triumphant finish line is actually just the quiet beginning of the end. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.